Governor Bob McDonnell of Virginia is a campaign surrogate for Mitt Romney. His state was one of the 26 states that filed suit against the Department of Health and Human Services after the Affordable Care Act was passed. It's nice to see you, sir. Thanks for talking with us. Let me ask you a specific question. What happens now? Governor Romney saying that, in fact, if he is elected into office, he's going to be sure to repeal that law. Do you worry that the American public actually by then may say, we like the law?
I doubt it, Soledad. This has been a very unpopular law since the beginning. In fact, I think most of the polls show about 60% plus of the people oppose this bureaucratic big government mandate on the states and on individuals. I think there's broad agreement that increased access, reduced cost, innovation in healthcare is good. But doing it in this way to mandate that you must buy an insurance product or have now a tax or a penalty, not the way to go. So I think it's a bad policy. The court didn't say it was a good policy. It just said 5-4 that it was constitutional under, I think, somewhat tortured tax and spend clause analysis of the U.S. Constitution. So now this $2.2 billion unfunded mandate falls on Virginia. I'm hoping it gets repealed in the upcoming Congress with a new president.
Yeah, you know, it's looking like that repeal in Congress might be a tough one. But let's go back to that polling for a second,
sure,
because I think, sir, you're wrong on some of those numbers. If you look at the latest poll, and I'll give you the one from Bloomberg, 34%, when they asked how people felt about reform, 34% that felt that the Affordable Care Act should be repealed, but 43% felt it should be kept with small modifications, and another 15% actually felt that it should be left as is. So, you know, math was not my greatest subject, but that's almost 60% actually are pretty good with the law. So I think on the polling, you might be wrong there. Is Mitt Romney the right person to be discussing taxing and penalties and fines and fees when you look at the state of Massachusetts, where he did a similar thing in his own plan? Listen to him defending that. This is back in 2006, April.
It's not a tax hike. It is a fee. It's an assessment. We're currently assessing our employers. The great majority of employers in Massachusetts are assessed this fee right now.
So it's a fee, it's an assessment, it's a penalty, it's a tax. As a person who ends up paying for those things, aren't those all kind of the same thing?
Well, Soledad, I'm going to disagree with your previous comment, too. It depends what polls you look at. I can tell you the people of Virginia don't want this law. And so we've got some challenges in addressing it. Here's what the court said, which is ironic, that it is a legitimate use of the tax clause powers of the Constitution. Ironically, in 2009, when President Obama was proposing this law, he said it's not a tax. It's a penalty. And so now, of course, they uphold it on exactly the opposite. Here's the problem overall, is that the unfunded mandates on the states, the costs that we will have to bear over time are crushing. Medicaid is growing incredibly fast as a part of the budget. Now this is $2.2 billion on Virginia. So here's what the issue is. The court said it's constitutional. It didn't say it was a great idea. Mitt Romney in Massachusetts said that the states could do it, not that the United States Congress could mandate that all the states can do it. So it's a very different proposition. So yes, Mitt Romney's the right guy to be able to champion this repeal. And President Obama's going to be running on a record, Soledad, that says that he's got the worst unemployment rate in modern history on a sustained basis. He's got the worst amount of debt and deficit in history. And now he's got one of the largest tax increases on the middle class in history. And I think that's a pretty good battle for us to have in November.
Let's talk about that Medicaid expansion before I let you go. If you choose to run again, you'd be running for governor in 2014. You have the decision to make. Would you opt in or decide, you know, your state would not opt in? Which way are you going to go?
Well, unfortunately, I'm a one-term governor. Virginia's the only state in the country Soledad one term. So my job is to do the right thing. I can tell you right now that we have to choose between a state-based or a federally based exchange if this law stays in effect. I hope it'll get repealed in the new Congress. Right now, it seems like controlling these exchanges at the state is the better way to go. But I tell you, the federal government haven't even told us what the federal-based exchange is fully going to look like. So it's hard for we governors to be able to make that full determination. So we're going to take what other steps are necessary to comply with the law. But at the same time, I hope we get a new president, and I hope we can repeal it, because this is an intrusion into liberty, and it's a bureaucratic mess that really ought to be left to the states. That's Mitt Romney's position. Leave it to the states to decide how to reform the health care system.
Governor Bob McDonnell, Republican from Virginia, thanks for talking with us. Appreciate it. Governor